So, guys, as I'm sure you would have seen, Salah released a public statement on all of his social media, and I do think it was very telling. Now, I want us to break it all down, but I want to start with Stevie G, the way he spoke about it on TNT, and this was the day of when Salah released the statement, so he was reacting to it kind of raw. And the context I think that is very important is we know Stevie is close to Salah. At least Salah goes to him for some advice. As we know, when the Leeds incident happened, Stevie even came over to his house, Stevie G, and gave him advice, on what he should do next. So the fact that this is coming from Stevie, who, by the way, is not a reactionary kind of pundit or legend, I think is very telling. So here's what he said. He said, quote, Mo Salah doesn't really speak much. He doesn't really tweet. And he certainly doesn't tweet like that. So I think that he's sending a message to the outside that things in the Liverpool dressing room are not right. The identity is gone, and it's really hurting him to see it in front of his own eyes. I'm surprised the timing, one game to go, his last game for Liverpool. He very rarely speaks. He's done it lately because he's bringing the curtain down on an incredible Liverpool career. But that is quite damning to the Liverpool manager and the staff in terms of where the team's at. Now, Stevie is really putting it out there. And what I want to highlight, because I'm sure you guys would have read the statement already, so I'm not going to read the full statement from Salah, but two parts that I do think are significant. He spoke at one point about turning from doubters to believers, which is obviously quoting Jurgen Klopp. But he also said, I want to see Liverpool go back to being the heavy metal attacking team that we used to be. That is the football I know how to play, and that is the identity that needs to be recovered and kept for good. Now, for me, those two specific lines are very damning on Arne Slot. And the reason they are is because that's clearly on the manager. Like, he's speaking about the identity of the football club, and where does that culture begin? At the very top in terms of the actual playing side of things. And who's at the very top of the playing side of things? Our coach, Arne Slot. So, everybody's going to have an opinion on this statement, but I do think it's very damning for Slot. As Stevie G himself even said, I don't think it takes rocket science to see what Salah was trying to get at. And I do think this shows how for Salah, a statement like this really is him caring and looking out for the football club more than anything, because Slot might be pissed at the fact that he's put out this statement because it definitely puts more pressure on the manager. But I think he's thinking about Liverpool above anything else. Whether he knows ultimately next week is his last game, so he's gonna play. He's gonna get an incredible farewell. But I think this statement is him sending a clear message that things can't continue the way that they have been. And by the way, clearly the Liverpool squad agrees, because look at the amount, the players who have liked Salah's post: Dominic Szoboszlai, Florian Wirtz, Ryan Gravenberch, Cody Gakpo even has just liked it. Ibu Konate, Andy Robertson, Hugo Ekitike, Milos Kerkez, Curtis Jones, Jeremy Frimpong, Wataru Endo, Giovanni Leoni, Harvey Elliott, Stefan Bajcetic, Calvin Ramsey, Reece Williams. Curtis responded to it with this kind of clapping emoji, and he himself put out a statement saying, thank you for your continued support in a disappointing season. It's way off the standards expected at this football club. And then former players who left last summer that also liked it are Jarrell Quansah, Luis Diaz, Trent, Tyler Morton, and Nat Phillips. So I'm just saying, I don't think it's... I think almost anybody can look at that text from Salah and just agree with it. Like, it's just plain facts. But the fact that it is coming from him and the amount of fans and the following that he has is significant. It is very, very significant. I would call this a BOMBA, not similar to the Leeds one, obviously, because that was right after a game, and he literally said that he was thrown under the bus, right? It's not as direct as this, but I still think this is a huge BOMBA. I think it's the second. I mean, to be fair, he hasn't really had to do it until this season, but I think in 10, 15 years' time, what are the two moments we're going to remember from Salah in this difficult season of him coming out publicly? We'll remember the Leeds game, and we'll remember him coming out after the Villa one. But this is less reactionary, obviously, to a situation of his. It's a bigger thing. He's talking about the identity of the football club going forward. And that's massive. You know what I mean? That's the culture. He's basically saying the culture that Klopp put in place, this winning culture, he sees fading right now. He doesn't see it being there. And we all know that it's cultures that win you things. It's not like sure you can win something in a one-off, maybe in a cup competition, but if you want long-term success, the culture needs to be right. And the fact that Salah is calling this out, who's seen winning cultures, like I said, to me is the most damning thing on Arne Slot and his coaching staff. Because, now he knows he's leaving Salah. So this is just him looking out for the football club. And what he sees it every single day. Every single day he sees it on the training ground, in everything you can imagine behind the scenes that we, the fans, we, the outside world, even the owners don't see because they're not there every single day. In terms of the actual, the running of the football club on the pitch, he does. And he's saying these things. You know what I mean? And the fact that he also crammed in Klopp phrases, I'm just saying, feels significant too, because that is saying that the culture that he knew... you see... Sorry about that. We're back. The phone just fell. But yeah, you see, no matter how you kind of analyze this, I think... You see that it's a significant statement from Mohamed Salah, and yeah, let me know in the comments what your reaction was when Salah published this yesterday, what your initial gut reaction was to it, and yeah, because I'm curious. I do think most of us were like, wow, he's come out and said this. It's facts, but still, wow, he's come out and said this because he's still representing Liverpool. I feel like this is the kind of statement I expected from Salah. Maybe like 3 months down the line if he's asked about it. Right? But this is him like while the season is still ongoing, while there's still a lot to play for because we have our last game of the season next week and we could still not get Champions League football. So this last game is very important still, as crazy as that sounds, because a few weeks ago you were like, there's no way we don't get Champions League football. But that's the state that we're in now after not beating Chelsea, failing to beat Chelsea at home, and really getting beat badly by Villa. So it's, it's hard to believe that we could actually end up getting Champions League football when you look at the course of this season, but it's the reality, and I do think now the last few days, I've also seen the main Liverpool journalists really changing their stance or how they speak about Arne Slot. Like they can see the journalists and they're speaking on it, just how big the fire, the pressure has gone on Arne Slot in terms of the very few Liverpool fans that still believe in him, that still believe that it's worth... I think the big thing at this stage now, right, because it's basically the end of the season, we have a week left, is are you willing... For me, the big question is, are you willing to risk it going wrong early on next season and therefore keeping Arne Slot? And what do I mean by that? We need to have a big summer. We know for a fact we need to have a big summer. And that's risk, because you're buying a big-time attacker to come in the place of Salah, right? And then we probably need to sign 2 wingers, because we never replaced Luis Diaz, right? Let's say 2 wingers. In this current market, that could cost you 200 million. We need to sign at least a midfielder, a defensive midfielder. We need to sign a center back, maybe a right back. If you think about all the positions we need to fill this summer, we could be talking about, and I've made videos in the past about the amount of players that could go, by the way. We could have another big summer of outgoings. It genuinely looks possible. It genuinely does. Like, there's even news yesterday that Chiesa is very, very likely leaving too. So we're going to have a big summer. Now, here's the big question is, with a big summer we know we need to have, that's a non-negotiable basically, whether Slot is here or not. So that's probably 300 million plus in spending. Are we willing to risk that amount of money and another entire season going wrong if Slot doesn't begin it in a strong way? And what do I mean by that? Because so many fans no longer believe in Arne Slot, the moment it goes wrong next season, it will be huge noise and pressure like we're seeing now, but at the beginning of a season. And that is a risk that they're going to need to think about and look at, because I think it's too big of a risk. You know what I mean? I think it's too big of a risk. But you could also say finding a new manager is a big risk now too, because imagine it goes wrong there. And, Obviously, everything's a risk from here. But still, I've rarely seen instances, and when I see people talking about this, right, let me know what you think in the comments about this too. I've rarely seen instances where a manager completely loses a fan base and then wins them back. That almost never happens. The one example I've seen people mention is Sir Alex way back in the day, but it's hard to really talk about that because now it's kind of a different world with the world of media and social media and everything else. But people have said that was apparently Sir Alex back in the day. The more modern example is Mikel Arteta. There are a lot of Arteta out fans. And now, obviously, if he wins the Premier League, which is like 95% sure at this stage, if he wins the Premier League, obviously there would be, like, he would end up being a success. He would. Whether you like his football or not, he would end up being a success. So he would be proof that a fan base can be against you, and he turned it around. However, I still saw Arsenal fans a month ago saying that if he didn't win the title, they would want him out. So he's kind of on the brink of it too. Like, we're talking about a game or two that are saving him right now from the fan base going completely berserk at him. You know what I mean? So it's also fine margins for the Arteta shout that people are giving. So I do think once you've lost a fan base, and obviously I know there's still some people who believe Slot can turn around next season, but if I were to do like a case study, and I would not just be looking at online, like let's say doing an online poll, I think even if you ask Anfield crowd, if you ask the city of Liverpool, it would be significantly now saying they don't believe Slot can turn things around now, you know? So this is what I mean, and that's the big risk that FSG have to kind of look at. But I also think now, to add even more pressure to it, the fact that Chelsea have announced Xabi Alonso feels significant too, because so many Liverpool fans wanted him in, and whether he's the right guy to take over or not, there are a lot of things that made sense with his appointment. You know what I mean? And he is one of the most sought after managers. There's a reason why Chelsea, you know, the likes of Areola were available in the market, who's done very well in the Premier League. Look at where Bournemouth are now. They saw Xabi Alonso as their standout top target, you know, and they could have waited till after the World Cup, but they went all in on Xabi Alonso, and it tells you how highly rated he is in world football. I mean, his last job was literally Real Madrid. I know it didn't work out, but when you look at his win rate in La Liga, it was actually very high. I think it was third in the history of Real Madrid coaches in the last 25 years or something. So it's not like he was the flop that everybody makes him out to be at Real Madrid. It's more as you can see, the football club is in shambles right now. Sorry, my throat. But anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments about all of this. And as always, thank you for your support. I will see you in the next one. Ciao, guys.